Hi, my name is Kaya Dream and this is a new video that we are bringing to hardwareheaven.com to give you all your gaming news, reviews and hardware reviews in one place that you can watch on a weekly basis to get your fill of everything that you want to know. This week we have a lot of gaming news and some major content expansions that we're going to talk about. The SteelSeries Sensei RAW rubberized and glossy review, as well as a review and comparison of Sleeping Dogs and Max Payne 3. Let's get into the first section, gaming news. NCSoft has announced they are closing Paragon Studios due to a realignment of company focus and publishing support. That means for you guys that City of Heroes will be closing down at some point this year. They have announced that they are aiming for a November shutdown and that the game will be unplayable from then on. However, they have said to keep your eyes peeled for updates over the coming weeks due to announcements surrounding the game's closing down and what will happen in-game until that point. Fans and players of the game have been rallying their support and love for Paragon Studios and City of Heroes and actually had an in-game rally at the steps of City Hall in Atlas Park. Sony Online Entertainment have been extremely busy and have announced a pair of expansions for EverQuest and EverQuest 2, as well as some beta bonuses for PlanetSide 2. Now, starting with EverQuest, the next expansion will be the 18th expansion for the game. It will be called Reign of Fear and the storyline will continue where House of Thule left off. Now, to throw some sexy numbers at you all, there will be a level cap increase up to 100, 9 new playable zones, 110 quests, and over 1,800 spells to obtain, as well as 13 different raids. As well as a ton of content, Sony Online Entertainment also plans to implement an aggro meter, new collection and hunter quests, as well as fun titles for the dedicated players to obtain. Now this expansion is set to release in November, fingers crossed. Moving on to EverQuest 2 now, the expansion will be the 9th expansion for the game and will be titled Chains of Eternity, which is also set to release in November. The expansion is set to be in EQ2's version of the Afterlife, and adventuring and trading skills will now be capped at level 95. Some great news for EQ and EQ2 players. If you attend Sony Online Entertainment's live event this year, you can pick up a copy of both expansions for free. Now, after that EQ overload, we skip over to PlanetSide 2, which is an open world MMO FPS game. Now they have announced that they are bringing a package called Alpha Squad, which means that you purchase the game for $39.99. You get instant beta access to PlanetSide 2, as well as a founder title and some in-game exclusive weapons. You also are awarded 4,000 PlanetSide 2 cash to spend in the in-game store. Guild Wars 2 has been launched. Despite the problems with botting, hacking and various exploits that have happened in the weeks since launch, ArenaNet are working extremely hard to get them all fixed. The trading post is now working as intended and the forums are up for everyone to participate in. The things that need to be fixed are very minor in consideration to the content and the sheer size of this game that ArenaNet have produced. Now already we are seeing a lot of level 80 players in the game and even people with full exotics like myself. The content is extremely endless and the dungeons difficulty are challenging enough to keep us coming back for more. The gear sets are exciting and have great aesthetics, and the PvP tournaments are now working as intended and hopefully the rewards will be fixed also. Good job, ArenaNet, and hopefully we'll see those fixes coming in thick and fast in the near future. Steam's Big Picture Beta is set to launch Monday the 10th of September. However, no public beta has yet to be announced. What this means for us gamers is that we can play the games that we purchase on Steam on our PCs and play them on our TVs using a controller, skipping out the console entirely. What this means for developers is they don't have to develop their game in any other way other than making it usable to play with a controller. This will be great and excluding all those limitations that we have previously seen when trying to play PC games on our TVs. Now moving on to the game review section of this week's show, we are going to talk about Sleeping Dogs and Max Payne 3. Now, even though they are very, very different games, they still have that action, shoot 'em up, beat 'em up feel to them, but in completely two different styles. Now, Sleeping Dogs originally started as True Crime Hong Kong. However, Square Enix revived the game and recreated it as a very cinematic, story-focused action, beat 'em up, kung fu, martial arts style game that it is now and referred to as Sleeping Dogs. The game is an open world game and can be compared to things such as Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row 3, but with its very own feel and certain things that make it very unique to the genre. Things like combo mechanics in combat, environmental kills and chase sequences, as well as the very martial arts feel to the entire game. The combat system revolves heavily around combo skills that can be effective to a variety of different enemies, such as clicking the left click of your mouse 3 times and holding down the last click to make that final move. The environmental kills, however, can be anything from smashing a foe through a window or pulling a shutter down on an enemy's head. Trust me, this is a very satisfying way to get that final blow on an enemy. Objects will glow red in the environment if they are things that you can use to one-shot an enemy in the area. As with most open world games, Sleeping Dogs does have a variety of mini-games that you can participate in aside from the main storyline that you'll want to complete. These mini-games are anything from street racing, cockfighting, and even karaoke. These can provide hours of fun outside of the missions that you'll do either for the police or for your gang. The story content is great and there are a massive amount of conflicts for the main character, Wei Shen. A bit of a background, he is an undercover cop who is working his way up the gang ranks in Hong Kong to get close to the leaders. Now, this doesn't always play out well for him. He does have a bit of an awkward time trying to balance the gang aspect of life and also working in cooperation with the police. So it's really interesting to see how this story plays out. Overall, the interesting concept of the combat, the scenery of Hong Kong in the game, and the sheer amount of objectives to complete really do make this game worthwhile. It's a great change from the typical gang style games that we have seen in the past. If you want to feel like a badass kung fu hero, this is definitely a game to try out, especially since you can get a Jet Li outfit in game. Moving on to Max Payne 3. Max Payne is a very story-driven action third-person shooter game. I would personally recommend that you play the first 2 Max Paynes before you delve into the story depths of Max Payne 3. You really have to associate with the character, understand why he is the way he is, and really have that emotional bond with him that you would only get from playing the first 2 games. In this game, the third of the series, Max is a very broken man who resorts to a lot of medication and alcohol to suppress his emotions and memories of the previous 2 games. The game in particular is very cinematic heavy, however this is necessary to get the story across to the player and for you to really relate to how Max is currently feeling at this point in time. He has a lot of bad stuff thrown at him that he has to encounter, and I think the cinematics really help you relate to him and put yourself in that situation so you can understand why he's so frustrated and why he resorts to things like alcohol to cope with the current situations. The combat is interesting and definitely tricky at times. It's not the easiest shooting game that I've ever played, however it's not impossible. There are a variety of mechanics that do make it easier, such as slow motion shooting shots and also the last stand mechanic, that if you lose all of your health, you automatically go into slow motion and have an opportunity to shoot at your enemy. If you hit them, you'll be revived with a certain amount of help to be able to carry on playing. Now, there is a red figure on the side of your screen, and this acts as the damage meter to record how much damage you've taken. Now, you can actually reduce the amount of the meter by taking medication mid-combat, and that will reset everything for you and regain health. Now, as well as a 12-hour plus story campaign, there is a ton of multiplayer gameplay. Now, not only is it just multiplayer replaying the same story, you get to create your crews and gangs and play online with other players who are also in-game. Now, say you've got that enemy who keeps killing you and it's really frustrating, you can also place bounties on their heads and have other players come in, collect the bounty, and essentially kill them. Personally, out of the 2 games, even though they are very different, I would recommend Sleeping Dogs purely for the combat and the sheer uniqueness of the martial arts in this open world style game. However, Max Payne 3 is very story driven, and if that's something you are really interested in, definitely Max Payne is better for the story aspect, and Sleeping Dogs, the combat is much more enjoyable and satisfying. The next part of our video, the hardware review section, we're going to take a look at the SteelSeries Sensei RAW glossy surface and rubber surface mice. If we take a look at both of the mice, you can clearly see there is a massive difference between the 2 surfaces. Now, the rubberized surface is designed to allow a lot of grip and comfort when having the most frantic of gaming sessions, whereas the glossy features a sleek black coating that actually gives it a really unique design, makes it look really snazzy, but also has that professional mouse feel. If we go into the buttons of the mouse, there are 2 buttons on the left side, 2 buttons on the right side, the left and right click, as well as the scroll wheel and middle click, and a CP high and low switch. The same goes for the rubberized finish. Essentially, they are exactly the same mouse, but with the 2 different textures on top. Now, on the bottom of the mouse, you can see that we do have the typical rubber feet that does give that control that the Sensei also had. Now, in regards to the differences between the Sensei and the Sensei RAW, they have taken out the things that they feel wasn't necessary to have in the mouse, and it can still give that professional mouse without the use of the onboard memory and LCD menu and the processor that the Sensei has. This mouse is also compatible with Windows 2000, XP, Vista 7 and Mac OS X. It also still has the light up SteelSeries symbol on both of the mice, and they actually developed this with various StarCraft 2, Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends, Hon, Warcraft 3 and Doom players. These were professional teams that helped develop these mice. Personally, I find the mouse very, very suitable to my specific hand type. It's not so ergonomic that it is really upright in the palm of your hand. The buttons on either side are placed in a very good position to make them suitable for the thumb. Personally, I wouldn't be using my ring finger and pinky for the other side, so that would be better suited for left-handed players, but that's what it was designed for. The scroll wheel is really reactive. When you plug it in, you can see the mouse movements glide really, really fast, but there's also that element of control so that you don't feel it's too slippy. I am also using them on a SteelSeries mouse mat as it happens, which may or may not help, but I do personally find that the movement is really, really smooth. I also have a Razer Naga. Sometimes I find the feet on the bottom of the Naga to be quite sticky to certain mouse mats, but the Sensei doesn't have that problem at all. The feet do glide really, really well. The clicks are really responsive. Personally, I think it's everything that you would want from a high-end professional gaming mouse. There is also no need to install any unnecessary software on your computer. It simply is plug and play, which is something I personally always look for in my hardware. I would highly recommend these mice, and I think they are really fantastic. If I was going to pick one, it definitely would be the rubberized texture, purely because the glossy texture, I think, would always get really dirty. It feels quite slippy over the rubberized, which I find more comfortable to play with. But again, that's something that would really depend on your play style and how you would like your setup to look. I have a glossy Razer Lycosa, some people prefer the matte one, so it completely depends on your playstyle and what feels best to the touch for you. But these are great mice and I would definitely recommend them. They are actually $30 or €30, depending on which currency you use, cheaper than the original SteelSeries Sensei. So thank you very much for watching this week's video. I hope you enjoyed the games and the hardware we had to review, as well as the news that we had to bring you. Stay tuned for the next video and see you next week. Bye!